Not only am I a believer in the issue of the handshake across the Niger, I was one of the architects of the handshake across the Niger. If you remember, in 2018, I believe it was at the beginning of 2018, January, if I remember correctly, we had the famous meeting in Enugu, where the people of the Southwest, the South-South, the North-Central came together with the people of the East, and all the major political groups and all the socio-cultural groups, everybody was there. And I made a speech on that day, a very passionate and important speech, in which I spoke about the way in which I believed the people of the Southeast have been treated in a very harsh way since 1960 in this country. They've really had it very, very hard indeed. I still stand by that, and I believe strongly that we need to build that bridge, first of all, by extending our hands in friendship and fraternity with them, and also to ensure that some of the atrocities of the past, that we as Nigerians, that is non-Igbo Nigerians, go out of our way to make amends for it by starting with an apology. I mean, you cannot deny the fact or ignore the fact that 3 million Igbo people were killed during our civil war, civilians, and 1 million of them were children. And I would have thought that the first thing we ought to do as a people, I said it then and I'm saying it again now, is that we really ought to have a little bit of reflection about that and perhaps apologize for that as a starting point. These were not soldiers, these were civilians that were killed, and that is an act of genocide. And you know, I'm not pointing fingers at any individual. I'm saying all of us as Nigerians have a collective responsibility to recognize that and at least appreciate the fact that, you know, in the history of the African continent, I believe it's only ever happened once, and that was worse than that. Rwanda in the 90s was very bad. 3 months, almost 1 million people were massacred to death. But I believe it was only once that we've had an atrocity that is greater, or that was greater than what we had in our civil war at that time. So for that reason and for so many other reasons, I believe in that handshake. And I believe that we should recognize the fact that the people of the East have been ignored, have been marginalized, and have suffered immensely compared to anybody else. Now, when it comes to the issue of the presidency itself, of course, it's for each of the parties to decide what they want to do. As a principle, as far as I'm concerned, in principle, I believe strongly that it is important that a major ethnic nationality like the people of the Southeast, the Igbo, has a crack at the presidency. It's never happened before, other than the fact that there was one time somebody was from the Southeast, from the old Eastern region. Aguiyi Ironsi was head of state, and he was murdered after a few months of being head of state. Outside of that, it has never happened before in terms of having full executive power. So it's perfectly logical for me to come to the conclusion that this is the right and proper thing to do. But that's something that needs to be determined within each of the party platforms. There's a very strong push this time round for 2023 for the presidency to come down to the southern part of the country. There's no doubt about that, and rightly so in my view. Which part of the South it goes to will then be a matter of discussion and contention, depending on which political platform that you're in. But as far as I'm concerned, I think it is very, very important that the people of the Southeast are made to feel inclusive. And one of the ways you can do that is to come up with the idea and offer the presidential ticket to that part of the country. So that's just my view. But of course, everything depends on what the parties will say and each of the party platforms. Those of us that are quite active within in the political sphere, let me put it like that, that are knowledgeable enough and that care enough and are sensitive enough, I'm sure would argue for that position. And that's the right position in my view. Let's hope that we get there. And I might add that there are many, many eminently qualified people from this part of the country that are able to play that role and would do it very, very well indeed, to the pride of the whole nation. So that's it. I was a little bit worried when a friend of ours, good friend of ours, within our party PDP, made some very incongruous statement, which I couldn't quite understand, which was that he was, what he said was that he supported the idea of the presidency going to the southeast, but that he didn't want an Igbo president. So this for me is, you know, we can't afford this sort of double speak now. You know, look, you stand on a position and you fall with it, or you stand with it. Okay? If the position had been reversed, and it had been that it's the people of the Southwest, where I come from, that had suffered the way in which the people of the Southeast have suffered in this country, that had never enjoyed the presidency under a democratic setting, that the only time they had it under a military setting, that the man was killed after a few months, and had been consistently moving in one direction in terms of votes and so on and so forth. And an election is approaching, and then somebody turns around from outside the region and says to me that, look, listen, we don't mind giving the president Southwest, but we don't want a Yoruba president. You know, that's a clear signal to me, and it's not a very encouraging one. We need to be clear, we need to be concise, and it would be very, very challenging for any political party to go forward and not bring that to bear. There are a lot of votes in the Southeast, and a lot of very passionate people in the Southeast. And I might add that the agitations of some of the self-determination groups in the Southeast are very, very strong, primarily because nobody is recognizing the fact that a lot of pain had been inflicted on them over the years, and it's almost as if it really doesn't matter to the rest of the country. That has to change, and that's what I believe the new Nigeria will represent. And whichever party is ready to do that, bring that to bear and consider such things, and is sensitive to such aspirations.
Okay, yes. Recently, Maman Daura said that zoning is no longer important, and that the best areas should emerge from now on. So maybe alluding to 2023. Is that correct? Do you think?
Well, that is his, sure. That is his opinion, and he has his opinion. Others have theirs. He's just one man. He's not God, and at the same time, he's not an army, and he's not somebody that can determine or force his thinking on others. This is a game of numbers, and this is a game of us sitting down. You see, okay, let me put it to you like this: if I said to you, "Oh, the presidency must come to the South no matter what," okay, and I don't work towards that, and reach out to northern leaders and elders and say, "Look, for your own interest, it is better to ensure this happens, because if it doesn't happen, that will be the straw that breaks the camel's back." Perhaps that could be the argument. Then perhaps you can win the case, and then perhaps you have power shift to the South. But outside of that, you know, you can't just power is not given; it is taken. And if the Southerners in our country want power, they need to take it, not by force, but by persuasion, by working hard morning, day, and night, and convincing northern leaders who are liberal and who are reasonable and rational and smart to say, look, let's form a coalition and ensure this happens. Outside of that, the reality is that we may not even see that. And that, in my view, would probably not be a good thing for the country, because we must ensure there's equity in this country. And after 8 years of Buhari in power, enunciating and unleashing on us what I would describe as a pure agenda, Fulanization and Islamization agenda. These are not my words; these are the words of President Olusegun Obasanjo, and it's him alone. I'm not saying other northern Muslims share this with him and his clique. We've been inflicted with that has been inflicted on us over the last 5 years. I would have thought it would be very sensible for us to sit down and say, well, look, it's time for us perhaps to shift power to make the South feel part and parcel of Nigeria again. However, it is not something that will be given to you. You have to work hard. You have to win the confidence of the other side. You have to build bridges. And even where you fail to achieve that, and a northern Muslim president, or for example, PDP has a northern Muslim candidate, I don't know if they will, or APC or whatever. If that happens, you have to make sure that you choose the right person, not a Buhari type. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be rude about the president. He's our president, but not somebody with that mindset. who will divide us all the more and who will take us to the brink, but somebody that is reasonable, rational, and understands the importance of unity, love, and peace, and treating every tribe and every faith fairly, no matter what. If you have a Nigerian like that, to me, it really doesn't matter where they come from. But the reality is the people of the South feel very bad. The people of the Southeast feel they've never had executive power. And I feel that that is full executive power at the federal level, except for once, and the man was murdered, okay, after a few months. And the Southwest has also suffered immeasurably over the years. And, in my view, it's time to shift. But let's wait and see how it goes. Whichever way it goes, we're in the game.